Thanks for joining us for part 2. The rain had softened to a mist, cloaking New Orleans in a veil that blurred the line between dream and waking. My bare feet pressed against the slick cobbles, each step a reminder of the fragile humanity I clung to, the cloak barely shielding me from the dawn's chill or the weight of my own dread. The girl's knife, tucked against my chest, was a cold, sharp question, its crescent moon etching a silent accusation. She was no mere wanderer lost in the bayou's embrace. She had come armed, purposeful, her eyes holding a knowledge that both drew and repelled me. I could still taste the black werewolf's blood, bitter on my tongue, a reminder of the beast I had unleashed to save her. But salvation, I feared, was a fleeting illusion, as ephemeral as the mist that swirled around me. The city was waking, its pulse quickening with the clatter of carts and the murmurs of early risers. But I sought the shadows, the alleys where the light dared not linger. My destination was not Etienne's mansion, not yet. I needed answers closer to the earth, where the old magic of New Orleans pulsed in hidden corners. Mama Zélie's shop, a cramped hovel tucked behind a sagging apothecary in the Tremé, was a place whispered of in tones of reverence and fear. She was no mere voodoo priestess, but a keeper of secrets, a woman whose eyes, clouded with age, saw truths beyond the veil. If anyone could decipher the knife's symbol or the girl's purpose, it was she. The shop's door was unmarked, its wood warped by years of damp and neglect, but the air around it thrummed with a quiet power, like the heartbeat of the bayou itself. I knocked, my knuckles rapping softly, and the door creaked open before I could lower my hand. Inside, the air was thick with the scent of herbs, sassafras, sage, and something sharper, like blood dried in the sun. Shelves sagged under the weight of jars filled with roots, bones, and things I dared not name. A single candle flickered on a table, its light casting shadows that danced like spirits on the walls. Mama Zélie sat in a wicker chair, her hands folded over a cane carved with symbols older than the city. Her hair was a cloud of white, her skin like polished ebony, but her eyes, milky yet piercing, fixed on me, as if they saw not just my form, but the beast within. "Gabriel," she said, her voice a low rasp, like leaves over stone. "You carry the moon's curse, and now you bring its trouble to my door." I knelt before her, not out of reverence but necessity, my legs trembling from the night's ordeal. "I need your help, Mama," I said, drawing the knife from my cloak and placing it on the table. Its blade caught the candlelight, the crescent moon gleaming like a warning. "This belongs to a girl I met in the bayou. She faced a werewolf with it, unafraid. I need to know who she is, what this symbol means." Mama Zélie's fingers, gnarled as cypress roots, traced the blade without touching it. Her lips pursed, and a low hum rose from her throat, a sound that seemed to pull the shadows closer. "This is no trinket," she said at last. "The crescent is a ward, old as the blood that runs in your veins. It marks the order of the silver moon, hunters who bind themselves to the light to slay those who walk in darkness. This girl, she is one of them, or seeks to be." My heart sank, a stone in the river of my fears. Hunters. I had heard of them in whispers, men and women who tracked creatures like me, their blades consecrated to end our cursed existence. But her eyes, those eyes that had held not just fear but curiosity, did not belong to a killer, or did they? "She saw me," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. "She saw the wolf, and yet she lives. Why?" Mama Zélie's gaze sharpened, cutting through me like a blade. "Perhaps she spared you, as you spared her. Or perhaps she hunts something greater, and you are but a step on her path. The silver moon does not kill for sport. They seek the source, the first of your kind, to break the curse at its root." the source. My creator, the she-wolf, Etienne had spoken of, wild and nameless, roaming the bayou's depths. The girl was hunting her, just as I was, our paths entwined by fate or cruelty. I gripped the table, my nails scoring the wood. Can you find her? The girl? Or the one who made me? Mama Zélie leaned forward, her breath warm with the scent of herbs and secrets. The bayou hides its own, Gabriel, but I can call to them. Blood calls to blood, and yours is loud with the wolf's song. But beware, the girl's path is not yours, and the she-wolf is no mere beast. She is old, older than the rivers, and her heart is a storm of rage and sorrow. To face her is to face your own darkness. She reached beneath the table, pulling out a small vial filled with a dark, viscous liquid. Drink this under the next moon, she said, pressing it into my hand. It will sharpen your senses, guide you to the she-wolf's lair. But it will also wake the beast, make it harder to chain. Are you strong enough, Gabriel, to walk that line? I close my fingers around the vial, its weight a promise and a threat. I have no choice, I said, though the words tasted of ash. If I am to be free, I must face her. Mama Zélie's smile was thin, knowing. Freedom is a lie, child. You seek not freedom, but truth. And truth is a blade that cuts both ways. I left her shop as the sun climbed higher, the mist burning away to reveal a city that seemed too bright, too alive for the shadows I carried. The vial burned in my pocket, a temptation as potent as the moon's call. I could feel the beast stirring, eager for the hunt, but it was the girl's face that haunted me most, her defiance, her mystery, the spark in her eyes that had seen me and not turned away. Was she my enemy, my salvation, or something more perilous still? The streets led me back to the French Quarter, where the day's bustle masked the city's secrets. I needed rest, a moment to gather my fractured resolve, but rest was a luxury I could no longer afford. Etienne's warning, Mama Zélie's words, the girl's knife, all pointed to the bayou, to the she-wolf who held the key to my curse. But another scent caught me as I passed a crowded cafe, faint but unmistakable, lavender and fear, mingling with the bitter tang of coffee. I froze, my eyes scanning the crowd. There she was, seated at a small table, her dark hair tucked beneath a scarf, her hands wrapped around a cup as if it could anchor her to the world. She was not alone. A man sat across from her, his face weathered, his eyes sharp with the same purpose I had seen in hers. He wore a pendant, a crescent moon gleaming against his chest, the order of the silver moon. My heart thudded, the beast snarling within, but I forced it down, clinging to the man I was. She had not seen me yet, but I felt the weight of her presence, a thread pulling me toward a destiny I could not yet name. I could approach her, demand answers, risk the hunter's blade, or I could retreat, seek the she-wolf alone, and let the moon decide my fate. The vial in my pocket seemed to pulse, a heartbeat of its own. The choice was mine, but it was no choice at all. The bayou waited, and so did the truth, sharp and unforgiving as a hunter's knife. I turned from the cafe, my steps leading me back to the city's edge, to the wild heart of the swamp where my creator roamed. But as I walked, I knew the girl would follow, her path and mine bound by blood and moonlight, a dance of hunter and hunted that would end only when one of us fell. The bayou swallowed me as I left the city behind, its murky embrace a mirror to the turmoil within. The vial from Mama Zélie weighed heavy in my pocket, its dark promise a pulse against my thigh, urging me toward the primal truth I both craved and feared. The sun hung low, painting the sky in hues of blood and gold. but its warmth could not touch the chill that clung to my bones. The girl's face lingered in my mind, her eyes, fierce yet searching, a paradox that stirred both the man and the beast within me. She was of the silver moon, a hunter bound to destroy my kind, yet I had spared her, and she had seen me, not as a monster, but as something else. What, I could not say, but the question gnawed at me, sharper than any claw. The swamp was alive with whispers, crickets humming, water lapping at cypress roots, the distant cry of a heron piercing the dusk. My senses, still raw from the night's transformation, drank in every detail: the musk of decay, the flicker of fireflies, the faint tremor of life beneath the surface. The beast stirred, restless, its hunger a low growl in my blood, but I held it at bay, clinging to the fragile thread of my purpose. I had to find the she-wolf, the one who had made me, whose bite had torn my humanity asunder. Only she could offer release, or damnation. I stopped at the edge of a sluggish stream, its waters black as ink under the fading light. The vial seemed to hum in my hand as I drew it out, its contents swirling like liquid night. Mama Zaylee's warning echoed: "It will sharpen your senses, guide you to the she-wolf's lair, but it will also wake the beast." I uncorked it, the scent sharp and bitter, like iron and herbs steeped in sorrow. I hesitated, my human heart pounding with the weight of the choice. To drink was to surrender to the wolf, to let its instincts lead me through the bayou's labyrinth. To refuse was to wander blind, a prey to both the she-wolf and my own curse. A rustle in the reeds snapped my gaze upward. The air shifted, carrying a scent I knew too well. Lavender and fear, mingled with the metallic tang of purpose. The girl, she was here, in the bayou, her presence a blade at my throat. I crouched, my senses flaring, and saw her through the shadows, her dark hair loose, her knife gleaming in her hand, her eyes scanning the swamp with a hunter's precision. The man with her, the one from the cafe, moved at her side, his crescent pendant catching the last of the sun's rays. They were tracking something, me, or the she-wolf, or both. My fingers tightened around the vial. There was no time for doubt. I tilted it to my lips and drank, the liquid burning down my throat like fire laced with ash. It hit my blood like a storm, my vision sharpening until the world was a tapestry of heat and motion, every leaf and ripple vivid as a scream. The beast roared within, not in hunger, but in clarity, its instincts aligning with my own. The she-wolf's scent was suddenly there, faint but unmistakable, a wild, primal musk that led deeper into the swamp, toward a place where the air grew thick with ancient power. I moved, my steps silent despite the mud, the vial's magic fusing man and beast into something more. The girl and her companion were close, their whispers carrying over the water. "He's near," the man said, his voice low, steady. "The wolf from last night. I can feel it." "He spared me," the girl replied, her tone softer, uncertain. "He's not like the others." "Don't be fooled, Celeste," the man snapped. "They're all monsters, cursed or not. We end this tonight, the black wolf, the silver one, and the one they both seek." Celeste. Her name was a melody, a pang in my chest. I wanted to call out, to tell her I was no threat, but the beast's clarity held me silent. They were hunters, and I was their prey, no matter what mercy I had shown. Yet her doubt, her hesitation, was a crack in the armor of their purpose, and it gave me a flicker of hope I dared not name. The she-wolf's scent grew stronger, pulling me toward a clearing where the cypresses parted like a cathedral's nave. The air here was heavy, charged, as if the swamp itself held its breath. In the center stood a figure, cloaked in shadow, her form both human and not. Her hair was a wild tangle of silver and black, her eyes glowing like twin moons, and her presence was a storm of power that made the beast within me howl in recognition. She was the one who had bitten me, who had left me to drown in this curse. "You've come, my child," she said, her voice a low, melodic growl that vibrated in my bones. "I felt your blood calling, even through the city's din. Why do you seek me, Gabriel? To beg for release, or to join me in the wild?" I stepped into the clearing, the vial's fire still coursing through me, sharpening my words as well as my senses. "I seek the truth," I said, my voice steady despite the beast's clamour. "Why did you curse me? What am I to you?" She laughed, a sound like breaking glass, and stepped closer, her movements fluid, predatory. "You were a poet, drowning in words, in a world too small for your soul. I gave you freedom, Gabriel, the freedom of the wolf, to run, to hunt, to live without chains. You hate me for it, but you feel it, don't you? The power, the truth of what you are." "Truth," I spat, my hands trembling with rage and fear. "You made me a monster, a killer. I spared a girl last night, fought one of our kind to save her, but the hunger never leaves. If this is freedom, it's a cage of blood." Her eyes narrowed, and for a moment I saw something human flicker in them. Sorrow, or perhaps regret. "The hunger is not the curse," she said softly. "The curse is your resistance, your clinging to a humanity that no longer fits. Embrace the wolf, and the hunger becomes your strength." Before I could answer, a twig snapped, and the air shifted. Celeste and the hunter burst into the clearing, their knives drawn, their faces set with purpose. The she-wolf's gaze snapped to them, her lips curling into a snarl. "Hunters," she hissed, her form shimmering as if the beast within her strained to break free. "The silver moon dares to tread my domain." Celeste's eyes met mine, and for a moment, time stopped. I saw no hatred there, only questions, a mirror to my own torment. "Gabriel," she said, her voice cutting through the tension. "Step away from her. She's the source, the first of your kind. End her, and the curse ends." The she-wolf laughed, her form blurring as fur sprouted, her body shifting into a massive wolf, silver black and radiant with menace. "End me," she roared. "You, a child with a blade, think you can unmake what the moon has wrought?" The hunter lunged, his knife flashing, but the she-wolf was faster, her claws raking his chest. He fell with a cry, blood pooling beneath him, and Celeste screamed, her knife slashing at the air. I moved without thinking, the vial's magic driving me, and tackled the she-wolf, my own transformation surging forth. Fur sprouted, bones cracked, and I was the silver wolf again, meeting her strength with my own. We clashed, a storm of claws and teeth, the clearing a battlefield of mud and blood. Her power was overwhelming, centuries of hunger honed into a weapon, but I fought not for hunger, but for truth, for the girl who had seen me, for the man I refused to lose. Celeste circled us, her knife ready, her eyes darting between me and the she-wolf, as if unsure who the true enemy was. "Gabriel!" she shouted, and I felt her words like a tether, pulling me back from the beast's edge. I pinned the she-wolf, my jaws at her throat, but her eyes held mine, not with fear, but with a strange, fierce pride. "You are mine," she whispered, her voice a thread in my mind. "Kill me, and you kill part of yourself." I hesitated, my human soul screaming against the beast's urge to tear. Celeste stepped closer, her knife raised, but her hand trembled. "Do it," she said, her voice breaking. "End her, Gabriel, for all of us." But as I looked into the she-wolf's eyes, I saw not just a monster, but a mirror, a creature bound by the same hunger, the same torment. To kill her was to kill my chance at understanding, at finding a path between man and beast. With a roar, I released her, staggering back as my body shifted, human once more, naked and bloodied in the mud. The she-wolf rose, her form shimmering back to human, her eyes never leaving mine. "You choose the hard path," she said, her voice soft, but heavy with meaning. "Find me again when you are ready to know." She turned and vanished into the swamp, her laughter a fading echo. Celeste dropped her knife, her face pale, her eyes locked on me. "Why?" she whispered. "Why let her go?" I knelt beside the fallen hunter, his breath shallow but steady. "Because I need answers," I said, my voice raw. "And because you saw me, Celeste. Not the wolf, but me." She stepped closer, her hand reaching out, then stopping short. "You're not like her," she said, almost to herself. "But you're not free, either." The vial's fire was fading, leaving me cold, human, and more lost than ever. The she-wolf was gone, but her shadow remained, as did Celeste's. Our paths were bound, hunter and hunted, man and beast, and the moon would rise again. I rose, helping her lift the hunter, and together we walked back to the city, the bayou's secrets trailing us like ghosts, waiting for the next night to claim us. The city's pulse thrummed beneath my feet as I carried the wounded hunter, Celeste's silent presence at my side, a weight heavier than the man's limp form. Her eyes, sharp with questions, avoided mine, but I felt their heat, their judgment, and perhaps their pity. The she-wolf's parting words echoed in my skull. "Find me again when you are ready to know." A taunt that stirred the beast within, its hunger clawing at the edges of my resolve. I had spared her, not out of mercy, but necessity, for her death would have severed the thread to my own truth. Yet the cost of that choice was a fracture in my soul, a widening chasm between the man I was and the monster I could become. We left the hunter at a shadowed apothecary in the Treme, where a healer with eyes as old as Mama Zaylee's promised to tend his wounds. Celeste lingered at his side, her fingers brushing his crescent pendant, her face a mask of guilt and resolve. "Go," she said, not looking at me. "This isn't your fight, Gabriel. Not yet." But it was. Her path and mine were entwined, bound by blood and moonlight, and I could no more turn from it than I could escape the moon's pull. I left her there, the dawn's grey light washing over New Orleans, and made my way to the Creole mansion where Etienne waited. His laughter, his amber eyes, his cryptic promises, they were a beacon in my confusion, a guide through the labyrinth of my curse. If anyone could unravel the she-wolf's mystery, it was he. The mansion stood silent, its iron gates ajar, as if expecting my return. The air within was colder than before, thick with the scent of dust and something sharper. Blood, old but potent, a reminder of the lives that had crossed this threshold and never left. I stepped into the foyer, my bare feet silent on the cracked marble, the tattered cloak barely shielding me from the chill. "Etienne," I called, my voice steady despite the tremor in my chest. "I know you're here. Show yourself." A shadow stirred in the dimness, and he emerged, his lean frame cloaked in black, his hair a cascade of raven silk. His eyes glowed with that same feral intensity, but there was a stillness to him, a control that set him apart from the she-wolf's wildness. "You've been to the bayou," he said, his voice a velvet blade. "You've seen her, felt her power, and yet you stand here, still human, still fighting. Why, Gabriel?" I stepped closer, the vial's lingering fire sharpening my senses, though its strength was fading. "I spared her," I said, the words heavy with confession. "I fought her, could have killed her, but I let her go." She's my creator, Etienne, the one who cursed me. But she's different from you. Wild, untamed, a storm of hunger with no leash. Why? Why am I caught between you and her, neither man nor beast, when you seem to walk so easily in both worlds? Etienne's smile was slow, almost tender, but it carried a weight of centuries. He gestured to a chair, its velvet frayed but regal, and I sat, my body aching from the night's battles. He paced before me, his movements fluid, deliberate, like a predator who had learned to wear grace as armor. "You seek the truth of your nature," he said, "and hers, and mine. Very well, Gabriel. I will give you what you ask, but truths, like blood, come at a cost." "Name it," I said, my voice raw. "I've paid in blood and shame already. What more can you take?" He stopped, his eyes locking onto mine, and for a moment, I saw not just the wolf, but the man he might have been, long ago. "The cost is acceptance," he said. "To hear this truth is to carry it, to let it shape you. Are you ready?" I nodded, though fear coiled in my gut, colder than the mansion's air. Etienne leaned against the wall, his gaze distant, as if peering into the centuries that had forged him. "The she-wolf and I are kin, Gabriel, bound by the same creator, an alpha, ancient beyond reckoning, whose blood runs in us all. His name is lost to time, but his power is not. When he turned her, long before this city was born, he was in his prime, a creature ruled by hunger, wild and unstoppable. His bite was a storm, and it made her what she is, a force of nature, a wolf who embraced the hunger as her truth. She revels in it, lives for it, and no chain can hold her." He paused, his eyes flickering with something like sorrow. When he turned me, centuries later, he was older, weary of the bloodlust that had defined him. He had learned to master the hunger, to balance the beast with the man. He passed that knowledge to me, not a gift, but a burden. I learned to walk the line, to leash the wolf without denying it. I tried to teach her, to share what he gave me, but it was too late. She had already surrendered to the wild, become a creature of instinct alone. And you, Gabriel, you are caught between us, her child by blood, but touched by my shadow, my restraint. I leaned forward, my hands clenched, the beast within stirring at his words. Then why did she choose me? Why curse me if she's lost to the hunger? Etienne's gaze softened, almost pitying. "She chooses those who burn, Gabriel, souls too bright for the mortal world. You were a poet, a dreamer, your heart a fire that called to her. She saw in you what she once was before the hunger consumed her. But her bite was not a gift of love. It was a claim, a desperate act to bind you to her wildness. She does not understand restraint, only need." "And you?" I asked, my voice breaking. "Why do you care what I become? Why guide me when you could let me fall like her?" He stepped closer, his presence overwhelming, his scent a mix of earth and blood, and that strange, sweet decay. "Because I see myself in you," he said softly. "A man who fights the beast, who seeks meaning in the curse. I failed her, Gabriel. I will not fail you. But you must choose. Her path, the wild, or mine, the balance. The Alpha's knowledge is yours, if you can bear it." I rose, my heart a storm of rage and longing. "And if I choose neither? If I seek her out, not to join her, but to end her, to break the curse for all of us?" Etienne's laugh was low, edged with warning. "You think like a hunter now, like that girl, Celeste. The Silver Moon dreams of ending the Alpha's line, but they do not understand. To kill her is to risk becoming her, to let the hunger claim you. The curse is not hers alone. It is ours, woven into our blood. Find her, yes, but not to kill. Find her to learn, to ask what she cannot give herself. I turned away, my hands trembling, the beast snarling at the edge of my control. Etienne's words were a mirror, reflecting a truth I feared to face. I was not so different from the she-wolf. Not yet. Her hunger was mine, her wildness a shadow in my blood. But Etienne's restraint, his balance, was a path I could not yet walk. Not while Celeste's face haunted me, her knife a symbol of a fight I could not escape. "Where is she?" I asked, my voice a whisper. "The she-wolf. Tell me where to find her." Etienne's eyes gleamed, a spark of approval in their amber depths. The bayou's heart, where the cypresses weep blood and the moon's light never fades. She waits for you, Gabriel, but she will not wait long. The hunters are closing in, and the moon waxes full tomorrow night. Go now, before the hunger chooses for you. I left the mansion without another word, the city's dawn a pale mockery of the fire in my veins. The vial was empty, its power spent, but Etienne's truth burned brighter, a guide and a burden. The she-wolf was my creator, my mirror, a wild thing I could become or destroy. And Celeste, Hunter, Enigma, the spark of my humanity, was out there, her path converging with mine. The bayou called, its secrets a siren's song, and I would answer, not as man or beast, but as Gabriel, seeking the truth that would either free me or damn me forever. The bayou closed around me like a living thing, its air thick with the weight of secrets and the scent of decay. The cypresses loomed, their roots twisting into the black water, their branches draped with moss like shrouds for forgotten gods. Etienne's words burned in my mind, the bayou's heart where the cypresses weep blood, a cryptic map to the she-wolf, my creator, whose wildness was both my curse and my key. The moon was not yet full, its crescent a pale sickle in the twilight sky, but its pull was already stirring the beast within, a low growl that vibrated in my bones. I moved swiftly, my senses sharpened by the memory of Mama Zayle's vial, though its fire had long since faded. The she-wolf's scent was a thread in the swamp's tapestry, wild, musky, laced with blood and sorrow, and I followed it deeper, my heart a storm of dread and determination. Celeste's face haunted me as I went, her name a pulse in my blood. She was out there, a hunter of the silver moon, her knife etched with the crescent that marked her purpose. I had spared her, and she had seen me, not just the wolf, but the man, also I hoped. Yet her presence in the bayou, her pursuit of the she-wolf, was a blade at my throat. If I found my creator, would Celeste strike her down? Would she strike me? The thought tightened my chest, but I pushed it aside. The she-wolf was my truth, my path to understanding the curse that bound me. I would face her, not as a hunter, but as a seeker, though the beast within whispered of blood and power. The swamp grew darker, the air heavier, as if the bayou itself resisted my intrusion. The scent grew stronger, mingling with a faint tang of iron, blood, fresh and warm. I crouched, my fingers brushing the damp earth, and found a smear of crimson on a cypress root. Not animal blood, but human. My stomach twisted, the beast snarling with a hunger I fought to suppress. The she-wolf had killed, recently, her wildness leaving a trail of death that would draw hunters like moths to a flame. Etienne's warning echoed. The hunters are closing in. I moved faster, the scent pulling me toward a clearing where the trees parted, revealing a sky bruised with clouds and the moon's cold light. There she was, in the heart of the bayou, where the cypresses stood like sentinels and the water gleamed red, as if weeping. The she-wolf stood in human form, her silver black hair a wild cascade, her eyes glowing with a feral intensity that made the air hum. She was beautiful, a storm of grace and savagery, her hands stained with blood, her lips curved in a smile that was both invitation and threat. Around her lay the remnants of her kill. A hunter, not of the silver moon, but one of the reckless mortals who ventured too far into the swamp, his throat torn, his eyes staring blankly at the sky.
You've come, my child. I knew you would. The moon sings to you, as it does to me.
I stepped into the clearing, my cloak falling away, my body trembling with the effort of holding the wolf at bay. Why? I demanded, my voice raw. Why kill like this? You draw their eyes, the hunters, the silver moon. You threaten us all. Her laugh was a shard of glass, sharp and fleeting.
Threaten? I am the wild, Gabriel, the truth of what we are. The hunters come because they fear us, because they sense the power we wield. I do not hide as Etienne does, cloaking myself in human lies. I am free.
Free, I spat, my hands clenching, nails biting into my palms. You're a slave to the hunger, a beast who leaves bodies for the world to see. I spared a girl, fought one of our kind to save her. I fight the hunger every night. Why can't you? Her eyes softened, but only for a moment. A flicker of something human buried deep. Because I chose the wolf, she said.
Long ago, when the alpha's bite burned through me, I saw the world as it truly is, raw, alive, unbound. You fight because you cling to a shadow, a poet's dream of humanity. But you feel it, don't you? The hunger, the power. Join me, Gabriel, and let the moon be your only law.
Before I could answer, a shadow moved at the edge of the clearing, swift and silent. Etienne. His presence was a shock, his amber eyes gleaming in the dusk, his body poised with a predator's grace. I hadn't sensed him, hadn't known he followed, but now his intent was clear, a coiled readiness, a hunger not for blood, but for an end. The she-wolf's gaze snapped to him, her smile twisting into a snarl.
Etienne,
she hissed, her form shimmering, fur sprouting as the wolf within her stirred.
You come to leash me again, to preach your coward's balance.
He stepped forward, his voice calm but edged with steel.
I come to end you, Marianne. Your wildness draws their blades, their eyes. The silver moon hunts us because of you, because you leave bodies in your wake, screaming our existence to the world. I could not stop you alone, but with him.
He glanced at me, his eyes a challenge.
Together, we are enough.
Marianne. Her name was a revelation, a shard of her lost humanity. She laughed, her body shifting fully into the wolf, a massive creature of silver black fur, her eyes burning like twin moons.
You think this child can help you? He is mine, Etienne, born of my blood. He will choose me, not your prison of control.
I felt the beast within me roar, my own transformation a fire in my bones, my body reshaping into the silver wolf. Etienne shifted beside me, his black fur sleek, his movements precise where Marianne's were chaos. We lunged as one, a clash of claws and teeth, the clearing a battlefield of mud and blood. Marianne was a tempest, her raw instinct a force that battered us, her jaws snapping with a ferocity that shook the earth. We fought as equals, our strength matched, a brutal dance of power, Etienne's calculated strikes meeting my desperate resolve. But her wildness gave her an edge, her movements unpredictable, driven by a hunger that knew no restraint. Slowly she was gaining ground, her instinct eroding our control, her claws tearing into my flank, then Etienne's shoulder, drawing blood that mingled with the red-tinged water. She struck me down, her weight pinning me, my silver fur matted with mud and blood. Etienne roared, leaping to my defense. But Marianne was faster, her jaws snapping at his leg, dragging him to the ground beside me. We lay there, panting, our bodies broken but not defeated, the moon's light searing our wounds. Marianne loomed over us, her form shifting back to human, her eyes alight with triumph.
"You fight for nothing,"
she said, her voice a low growl, thick with the promise of death.
"The hunger is all. You cannot stop it."
She raised her hand, claws glinting in the moonlight, ready to deliver the killing blow. Her focus was absolute, her senses dulled by the frenzy of the fight, blind to the shadow moving at the clearing's edge. Celeste. I caught her scent, lavender and fear laced with the steel of purpose. Too late to warn, too late to act. She was a ghost in the moonlight, her dark hair streaming, her crescent moon dagger gleaming in her hand. Marianne, lost in her victory, did not see her. As Marianne's claws descended toward my throat, Celeste struck, silent and swift. The dagger sank into Marianne's neck, a soft, precise thrust, the crescent moon etching a final mark. Blood welled, black in the moonlight, and Marianne's eyes widened. Not with pain, but with a fleeting, haunted sorrow. She staggered, her hand clutching the wound, her gaze locking onto mine.
"Gabriel,"
she whispered, her voice a thread of humanity breaking.
"the Alpha lives."
She fell, her body crumpling into the mud, the wildness fading from her eyes as the life drained from her. Celeste stood over her, her face pale, her hands trembling but steady, the dagger dripping with the blood of my creator. She looked at me, then at Etienne, her eyes a storm of resolve and regret.
"I thought it would end the curse. The silver moon believed her death would free you all."
I struggled to my feet, my body shifting back to human, the pain of transformation a dull echo of the shock in my chest. Etienne rose beside me, his own form human again, his face a mask of stunned realization. Marianne's final words burned in my mind, a revelation that shattered the hope her death was meant to bring. The curse was not hers to end. It was rooted deeper, in a creature older and more powerful, the one who had made her and Etienne, whose blood still pulsed in ours. The beast within me stirred, a low growl of hunger and despair, untouched by Marianne's fall. The curse lived, as did the Alpha, somewhere in the shadows of the world. Celeste's gaze met mine, and for a moment, I saw the spark that had stayed my hand that first night. Curiosity, recognition, a question neither of us could answer. But the crescent pendant at her throat gleamed, a reminder of her purpose, her allegiance to the silver moon. The hunters would come, drawn by the blood, and we could not stay. Etienne's hand grazed my arm, a silent signal, his amber eyes urging retreat.
"The Alpha,"
he whispered, his voice raw with the weight of Marianne's words.
"We must find him, Gabriel. This is not the end."
Without a word, we turned and vanished into the bayou, our footsteps swallowed by the swamp's shadows, leaving Celeste alone with Marianne's body. The moon watched, unblinking, as we melted into the darkness, two wolves fleeing a truth too vast to grasp. The she-wolf was gone, her wildness stilled, but the curse endured, a living thing tied to an alpha we had yet to face. The hunger whispered in my blood, and the questions Marianne left unanswered trailed us like ghosts, waiting for another night to claim us.